On Africa 24 English, the African Union Journal is presented to you by Afreximbank.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of the African Union Journal. In this edition, ladies and gentlemen, we'll focus on a vital issue for the continent: water security and sustainable availability. Faced with population growth, climate change, and pressure on natural resources, access to water is becoming a strategic challenge for Africa. At the heart of development, peace, and stability priorities, African states, with the support of the African Union and their partners, are stepping up initiatives to ensure the equitable, resilient, and sustainable management of this resource that is essential to life. Senegal, in guise and stepping up its diplomatic efforts, hosted a key UN preparatory meeting on water. President Bassirou Diomaye Faye chaired a high-level UN preparatory meeting in Dakar on January 26th. The meeting comes ahead of the United Nations Water Conference scheduled to take place in Abu Dhabi in December 2026. Its goal is to mobilize the international community towards firm commitment on universal access to water and sanitation. More on this report with Lucrèce Bogo.
Senegal hosted a UN preparatory meeting on water, a crucial gathering driven by its active diplomatic engagement. President Bassirou Diomaye Faye officially opened the high-level UN meeting in Dakar on January 26, 2026. The meeting is being held ahead of the United Nations Water Conference scheduled for December 2026 in Abu Dhabi. The main objective is to mobilize the international community in response to a water crisis that threatens global stability. UN statistics reveal a critical situation with 2.2 billion people lacking access to safe drinking water. Nearly 3.5 billion people do not have adequate sanitation services. President Faye emphasized that water is an essential resource that goes beyond a sectoral issue.
Votre présence à Dakar témoigne de l'importance politique.
Your presence in Dakar reflects the political importance the international community places on water and sanitation, not only as a sectoral issue, but also as a fundamental pillar of human dignity, public health, societal stability, and shared prosperity among nations. Water is a vital resource for humanity and nature. It is essential to maintaining the balance of our planet.
Au maintien de l'équilibre de la planète.
Echoing this sense of urgency, Retno Marsoudi, the UN Secretary-General's Special Envoy for Water, issued a strong call for collective action, stressing that reality contradicts the common saying that water is life.
Even more still, lack of access to safely managed sanitation. And each day, thousands of children die because of preventable water and sanitation-related diseases. Instead of sustaining life, the world water situation is still failing too many lives. That is a grim story that fills our reality. But we cannot give up to this reality. Giving up to this reality means giving up on our lives and our future.
The focus was placed on the particularly critical situation in Africa. President Faye recalled that the continent is being hit hardest by the crisis, with 40% of its population lacking access to drinking water and more than 70% without basic sanitation services.
C'est une situation moralement inacceptable.
This situation is morally unacceptable, and as long as it persists, our collective responsibility remains engaged. Water crisis fuel food crisis, weaken economies, displace populations, and intensify tensions. The meeting in Dakar aims to lay the groundwork for strong commitments by UN member states ahead of the December 2026 conference in Abu Dhabi, with the objective of ensuring universal and sustainable access to water and sanitation.
From the 19th to the 21st of January 2026, Djibouti hosted ECCAS 2026, a landmark event in its fight against climate change. The meeting brought together experts, researchers, and the decision makers with the aim of developing concrete solutions. The focus was on strengthening national resilience and the importance of international cooperation in the face of its global threat. Details on this with Marie-Raphaël Antolo.
Facing increasing droughts, growing water stress, threats to ecosystems, and risks to its socio-economic stability, Djibouti is committed to strengthening its resilience. From January 19 to 21, 2026, the country hosted the International Climate Adaptation Forum, a major event focused on research and the development of concrete solutions to tackle this global crisis.
Aucune politique d'adaptation ne peut être durable.
No adaptation policy can be suitable without a solid scientific foundation. It is this conviction that guided the creation of the Doctoral Alliance for Climate. Establishing this alliance in Djibouti reflects a clear political priority, placing climate transition and adaptation at the heart of our strategic vision.
Au cœur de notre vision stratégique.
The 2025 climate report reveals that 70% of agricultural areas are experiencing water stress and 15% of coastal ecosystems have been lost. This impact strengthens food security, land management, and biodiversity, highlighting the urgent need for concrete project funding and technology transfers to strengthen resilience at both national and regional levels. The world as a whole, and Africa in particular, is facing multiple shocks that affect our communities, economies, and ecosystems as a result of climate change. Thanks to scientific reports from the IPCC and IPBES, we are building solid evidence to guide effective policy decisions at all levels, from global to individual. President Omagile launched the Climate Doctoral Alliance to train young African researchers and strengthen South-South and North-South scientific partnerships. He called for international support in the form of funding, technology transfer, and equitable cooperation. In doing so, Djibouti positions itself as a strategic regional hub, combining local expertise, innovation, and international collaboration.
L'adaptation climatique exige des financements accessibles.
Climate change adaptation requires accessible financing, technology transfers, and equitable scientific cooperation. The Doctoral Alliance for Climate aims to complement all existing adaptation efforts. It is not an isolated initiative, but an open platform and a space for synergy. The forum brought together African and international researchers, academics, and climate experts, enabling the exchange of reliable scientific data to guide public policies. These discussions reinforce Djibouti's position as a regional platform for climate research and action, promoting a coordinated response to the impacts of climate change and fostering scientific and technological cooperation across the continent.
Floods, droughts, landslides in Cameroon, climate disasters affect hundreds of thousands of people every year. To better protect citizens and anticipate these weeks, the National Observatory on Climate Change is launching an innovative digital platform capable of alerting, protecting, and guiding decisions with 100% local expertise. Catherine Gombe has the details on this.
Drought, flooding, extreme temperatures, and rising sea levels. Cameroon faces major climate challenges. Between 2019 and 2024, over 311,000 people were affected by climate-related disasters. These events caused 121 deaths and the destruction of nearly 50,000 hectares of crops, exacerbating socio-economic vulnerabilities, according to the National Observatory on Climate Change. To better anticipate these hazards and limit their impact, on January 14, 2026, the National Observatory on Climate Change launched a digital platform for monitoring climate risk designed to strengthen early warning systems, protect populations, and reduce economic losses.
L'idée est ici de mettre en place un outil de suivi en temps
The aim is to set up a real-time monitoring tool to categorize different climate hazards, such as droughts and floods. This tool aims to improve understanding of these phenomena, but also to identify precisely where they occur in order to facilitate decision-making. Strategically, it now helps to strengthen the resilience of all sectors of activity, particularly agriculture, public works, and more broadly, all sectors affected by climate change. It is a platform designed to support stakeholders in their decisions and enable them to anticipate climate hazards more effectively.
et accompagner les différents sectoriels à se positionner.
Developed locally, ONAC's new climate platform is part of the modernization of climate governance in Cameroon, in line with African resilience priorities. In a country where climate-related disasters cost nearly 250 million francs CFA per year, or about 0.5% of GDP. The platform is based on multi-source data such as meteorological observations, satellite imagery, and field information, which are transformed into operational indicators to aid decision-making. The tool operates at 4 key levels: early warning, investment planning, crisis management, and scientific data reliability. Its major innovation lies in the integration of artificial intelligence under human supervision to ensure the credibility and traceability of information.
Nous avons créé un modèle basé sur des réseaux de neurones et LSTM.
It is a tool that supports planning and adaptation strategies while strengthening climate resilience. It enables us to support populations and different sectors to be more effective and proactive in the face of various hazards.
Sur le plan proactif et prendre des mesures qui s'adaptent à ces conditions-là.
Beyond technology, the project highlights Cameroonian and African-specific expertise. Researchers, notably from the École Nationale Supérieure Polytechnique de Yaoundé, have helped adapt climate models to local realities. Simulations carried out in Douala and Mara have enabled a warning system to be tested, with nearly 48% of the city of Douala remaining exposed to flood risks. It is more important to know what will happen than to be surprised. The platform has undergone a series of tests. It tested it on historical data and reconstructed all the floods and droughts in various locations in Cameroon, particularly in Mara. We carried out these simulations to detect these different periods, floods, droughts, and so on, cover the entire year 2025, and identify the different periods during which the probability of these climatic hazards is higher, and we are making the results available to the entire population. Accessible via ONAC website, the platform aims to become a tool shared by decision makers, local authorities, and citizens, thereby strengthening Cameroon's resilience to climate change.
On to this week's regional news featured by Sarah Ejie. Looks as voiceless for 80 years, Africa is demanding a permanent seat on the UN Security Council. Symbolic handover in Bakoa, Colonel Aliyu Tine takes the helm of ECOMIC in Gambia. Deployment on the ground and urgent assessment, SADC evaluates the impact of floods in Limpopo.
On January 26, 2026, in New York, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, president of the African Union Commission, demanded a permanent seat with veto power on the UN Security Council, condemning Africa's exclusion as an injustice and inequity for its 1.4 billion inhabitants. In the name of global equity, he called for all the prerogatives of a permanent member and also emphasized the need to strengthen the cooperation between the UN and the AU based on mutual respect, stressing multilateralism and the role of law as pillars of development and sovereignty. Africa, through initiatives like Resolution 19/27 and deployments in Somalia, views the rule of law as essential and non-negotiable for the peaceful resolution of conflicts. On January 8, 2026, in Bakau, Colonel Aliyu Tine succeeded Colonel Diamin Diouf as head of the ECOWAS mission in the Gambia ECOMIC. In a critical regional security context, he committed to supporting peaceful elections and working closely with the Gambia authorities and military. ECOWAS mission chief Maïta Lily French emphasized the central role of ECOMIC in maintaining peace and supporting democracy since 2017. Colonel Diouf presented a report for his tenure, highlighting security missions, joint patrols, and medical assistance provided to over 8,000 people. This transition, fully supported by the contingent commanders and the headquarters, takes place ahead of the upcoming elections and underscores the importance of ECOMIC in strengthening stability and regional cooperation. On January 25 and 26, 2026, a team from the Southern African Development Community conducted a mission to assess the flooding in the Limpopo province with the goal of determining the priority humanitarian needs. South African authorities reported 41 deaths and over 3,800 households affected in the Limpopo and Mpumalanga provinces. On the ground, the mission observed destroyed bridges and roads, damaged homes, and an evacuation center, while also analyzing the effectiveness of local coordination efforts. Officials stressed the urgent need for support for isolated and disaster-stricken population. This visit will allow SADC to make concrete recommendations for a rapid and targeted regional response, strengthening the resilience and security of affected communities.
On 22nd January 2026 in Addis Ababa, German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul confirmed a strong strategic partnership with the African Union based on multilateralism and security, and announced a financial commitment of 88 million euros for 2026-2027 in support of continental priorities. This announcement follows a visit to Kenya, strengthening bilateral cooperation. Jerome Belabo tells us more.
In Addis Ababa on January 22, 2026, German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul reaffirmed the strength of the strategic partnership with the African Union based on shared values including multilateralism, peace, security, human rights, and sustainable development. Berlin announced a €88 million funding for 2026-2027 to support African priorities: peace, security, good governance, migration, health security, after the AU border program, and AfriPol.
The African Union Commission values its relationships with the federal government of Germany, and I would like also to seize this opportunity to commend Germany's leadership in global decision-making. We all know that the international order is being disrupted. That creates a sense of uncertainty and unpredictability for the future. And it's certainly not helpful, nor can we properly plan the full execution of our peace and development agenda. Let us hope that reason and wisdom will prevail over reckless and disrupting decisions that have global impacts.
Johann Wadephul undertook a two-day tour of Africa, especially in Kenya and Ethiopia, to strengthen Euro-African dialogue. In Nairobi, he met President William Ruto and visited the Humanitarian Peace Support School, praising German-Kenyan cooperation in training peacekeeping. Discussion on defense cooperation agreement are ongoing.
We are also aware that progress on return cooperation is essential. Here, we still see room for improvement, and we will continue to advocate strongly for effective cooperation. I am confident that through this joint effort, we will be able to shape a sustainable and successful partnership in the field of migration and mobility.
In Addis Ababa, discussions also address regional security challenges, particularly in the Great Lakes region and Sudan, where hostilities are having serious humanitarian consequences. The chairperson of the African Union Commission and the German minister called for an immediate ceasefire, inclusive dialogue, and the protection of civilians, emphasizing the central role of African organizations in conflict prevention and management.
Germany also plays a peacekeeping role on our continent. It has to be recognized. Germany is chairing the contact and coordination group on the Great Lake region. Despite the unconstitutional change of government, Germany maintained its cooperation with the Sahel countries, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. The German government also supports the African Union Border Program and AfriPol. And Germany has also been the driving force of the G20 Compact with Africa, a very important program aimed at mobilizing private capital for investment and the creation of job opportunities in our continent.
For Germany, this partnership goes beyond aid. It aims to promote multilateralism and a rules-based international order while supporting African integration, notably the AfCFTA. Africa sees it as key financial and institutional support for its initiatives and for increasing its representation in global institutions, notably through reform of the UN Security Council.
The 48th Ordinary Session of the Executive Council of the African Union will be held on 11 and 12 February 2026 at the AU headquarters in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Composed of Ministers of Foreign Affairs or other designated representatives of the member states, this key decision-making body will, among other matters, examine the report of the 51st session of the Permanent Representatives Committee, the AU's participation in the G20, the organization of elections and appointments to the Union's organ and institutions, as well as the implementation of the skills, audit, and competency assessment of AU staff and draft legal instruments. The Council will also prepare items to be submitted to the Assembly of Heads of State and Government in line with the objectives of Agenda 2063. The Southern African Development Community Sustainable Energy Week in 2026 is scheduled to take place in Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe from February 23 to 27. The event is a collaborative effort between the SADC Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency and the SADC Secretariat. It will serve as a platform for various stakeholders, including policymakers, public institutions, NGOs, academics, regulators, development partners, financial institutions, and private sector representatives to deliberate on the advancement of renewable energy within the SADC region.
On January 24th, 2026, Ambassador Mariam Mahamat Nour was elected Vice President of the Commission of the Economic Community of Central African States. Mariam Mahamat Nour is a Chadian economist, diplomat, and a politician whose rich and diverse background reflects a deep and long-standing commitment to public affairs, economic governance, and African diplomacy. Recognized for her expertise in macroeconomics and development management, she has held senior positions at both national and international levels.
Elected on January 24, 2026 as Vice President of the ECCAS Commission, Mariam Mahamat Nour is a development expert with over 30 years of experience, holding a master's degree in development and international trade, National University of Côte d'Ivoire, and a postgraduate diploma in economic theories, Mariam Gaoubi University in Brazzaville. She served 12 years in ministerial position and 14 years at the United Nations, further consolidating her diverse expertise.
Des projets dans le domaine de l'agriculture, de l'environnement et de la sécurité alimentaire.
Projects in the field of agriculture, the environment, and food security. It has allowed us to finance landlocked areas, thus improving road infrastructure. It has enabled us to finance government with the improvement of our public finance performance and the business climate. There are also regional projects in the area of food security, particularly in the Lechab Basin, which, as you know, is a visible and tangible example of the victims of climate change.
Visible et palpable des victimes des changements climatiques.
Born on July 17, 1956 in Jamina, Mariam Mahamat Nour has held high-ranking positions in Chad, Minister of Economy, Planning and International Cooperation, Secretary General of the government. She has led institutional reforms, managed parliamentary relations, and steered key socio-economic and diplomatic policies. Her profile combines solid academic training with proven experience in negotiations and managing African development challenges.
Conservation des ressources naturelles avec la conservation de la biodiversité dans
the conservation of natural resources, including the preservation of biodiversity in the sub-region, the conservation of elephants, and the current challenges. We rely on the fact to diversify our economy, particularly focusing on agriculture and livestock to create job and employment opportunities for the youth, so that this youth does not continue to fall prey to
pour que cette
terrorists.
jeunesse-là ne continue pas d'être la proie des terroristes.
Recognized for her commitments to women's leadership, Mariam Mahamat Nour has been praised by national organizations for her role in promoting gender equality and women's participation in public life. Her election as Vice President of the ECCAS Commission reflects not only her experience, but also the confidence placed in her expertise to contribute to the integration and development of Central Africa.
Celles qui travaillent dans l'administration, ceux qui sont dans la politique.
There are two meetings for Chad, one for those working in administration, one for those involved in politics, those responsible for associations, village groups, and those working in ministries as executives. In the first meeting, around 400 women leaders attended. We adopted some texts. The goal is to work on strategic issues because women's associations, like all civil society organizations, are numerous. There are hundreds of them. The CONAF is focused on the strategic goal of improving the status of women. Union.
le CONAF, il est dans les stratégies à améliorer les statuts.
Through her roles, Mariam Mahamat Nour embodies a generation of leaders determined to make Central Africa a space for cooperation, development, and social justice. Her leadership, based on dialogue, competence, and commitment, makes her an inspiring role model for women and youth across the continent.
We now draw curtains on this edition of the African Union Journal, which focuses on water security and sustainable availability. More than just a resource, water is a lever for development, social cohesion, and conflict prevention. For Africa, meeting this challenge requires enhanced cooperation between states, sustainable investment, and responsible governance in order to guarantee equitable access to this vital resource for present and future generations. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of the programs on Africa 24 English.
On Africa 24 English, the African Union Journal is presented to you by Afrexim Bank.